One of the most difficult things for students to grasp when working with Excel formulas is the difference between relative and absolute cell referencing. The default way that Excel deals with cell referencing is relative. So here I'll type a formula in which I want to add the value of B3, the grade for this student, and I want to give that student the curve here found in E1. So I'll type the formula, which is equals the value here of B3 plus the value that's in E1. So if I select that, I see that 85 plus 2 is 87. But if I copy it down to the next student, I see that the next student doesn't get the curve of 2 points. This 44 plus 2 is supposed to be 46. The reason is, you can see right here in the formula bar that what happened in my original formula, which was the value of B3 plus the value of E1, and then when I copied this formula down to C4, the formula changed. It was B3 and now it's B4, and it was E1 and now it's E2. So what's going on here? Well, very simply, it's this. We have equals B3 plus the value of E1. As I copy this formula down from one cell to another, I'm staying in the same column, so I'm going to always be in column C. Now from column C, I have a reference here to column B. So the column reference is never going to change because as I pull this formula down, the column's never going to change. I'm going to stay in the same column, so the reference to column B will always be the same. But the reference here to row 3 is going to change as I pull this formula down because I'm coming from one row to another row to another row. So the column will not change, but the row will change. Well, on the first side of this equation here, it's okay for these to change, for the row to change, because I want to first of all consider the grade of student 1 plus the curve, and then the grade of student 2, which would be at B4, then the student 3, which would be at B5. So I want these values here to be able to change. I never have to worry about the B changing because I'm always going to be in the same column. But I want the row to change because I'm pulling it down. So that explains now the first part of this formula. Now think about the second part of this formula here. Right now I'm saying take the value of B3 and add it to the value of E1. So again, as I pull this formula down or copy it down, I'm going to be staying in the same column. The column reference will never change. I never have to worry about changing the reference to column B, and I also never need to worry about changing the reference to column E, because as long as I'm just copying it down in the same column, then the column reference here will never change, and so the column reference here will never change. But again, as I pull this or copy it down from one row to another, the row value will change, and so if I copy this down to C4 here, then the value would change from E1 to E2. So what I have to do is I have to make sure that the reference here to row 1 in column E never changes. I don't have to worry about the column, just the row. And the way we do that in Excel is by inserting a $sign by the value that we want to be absolute. All these other references like B3 here, this is relative. That means that either one of these values can change based upon what the formula is doing and based upon how you're copying it. And here the column E, it can change, but it's not going to change because I'm going to be copying straight down. But I cannot allow this row to change, and so I have to nail it down. Think of it that way. I have to nail down the row, and the way I would nail it down is with this $sign. If I needed to nail down both of them, then I could simply put a $sign in front of the E, and that would say nail down the reference to column E, row 1. But I don't have to do that, but I could. Let me show you another way to do this. Use the F4 key. It's a four-way toggle. I can hit F4 once, and it puts the $sign by both the column and the row. Hit it again, and it changes just to the row. Hit it again, and it nails down the column, but not the row, hit it again, and it takes it back to relative. So if you can remember that the F4 key gives you 4 functions or 4 options here. It's a 4-way toggle. F4 gives you 4. So just find the one you need and accept it. There you go. Now put the $sign right here in front of the 1, in front of the row reference, and 85 plus 2 is 87, and I'll copy this down, and I'll see here that 94 plus 2 is 96, and you can see in the formula that the column reference to B never changed as I copied it down. The column reference to E never changed as I copied it down, and the reason the columns never changed was because when I copied it down I never changed columns. The reference to the row did change because I copied it down from row 3 down to row 7, and that's okay because that's what I wanted it to do. But over here I did not want the reference to row 1 to change, and so nailing it down with the $sign made sure that the reference to row 1 never changed.